Hello, welcome to Monday Morning Matters live broadcast show brought to you by Magnicraft Consulting Team, anchored by Niyi Dunmade, a certified church consultant with the Society for Church Consulting in the U.S. Here, each Monday of every week, we address important, relevant, and actionable topics of interest that will help you and your church grow healthier. And now, meet your host, Niyi Dunmade.
Welcome. Good morning, everyone, from wherever you are, on the face of the globe. Thank you for hooking up with us. I welcome you to this YouTube channel, to this Facebook live broadcast show. This Facebook is live. My name is Niyi Dunmade. I'm the founder and the CEO of Magnicraft Consulting. Thank you for hooking up with us again. We are so glad that you are part of this live broadcast show. And as usual, I'm a certified church consultant, the lead consultant of Magnicraft Consulting, and the founder and the CEO of Magnicraft Consulting. And so Magnicraft Consulting is a church consulting firm that helps churches grow healthier through empirical assessment, trainings, revitalization, and strategic blueprints. Okay, I'm a certified church consultant with the Society for Church Consulting in the US. In fact, I have a double certification from the Society for Church Consulting and the Church Answers in the US. And so we always come your way every Monday, 7 a.m. Nigerian time or GMT or West African time with just some short clips to just help pastors move away from where they are towards what God has designed for them. And I will say quickly here that what you are gaining here is not all that there is to learn. It's not all that there is to assimilate. Because I heard a pastor during one of our leadership conferences say, no, I've listened to all your broadcasts. I think I'm good. No. And so that precipitated a kind of notion for me to talk on how to engage a church consultant. In my world in Nigeria, we do not have so many of them, so many of the church consultants. In fact, from Tom Rayner's presentation, we are in need of church consultants. We are in need, in as much as we also are in need of pastors to lead churches, we also are in great need of church consultants. So we're going to focus on how to engage a church consultant. And quickly, a big thank you to everyone who is commenting, who is liking our post, who is telling us how timely some of these topics are, commenting, sharing the comment. I met some pastor yesterday who told me they've been sharing and they've been getting some good feedback. Please do me a favor to drop a comment, okay? That's the only way. I know the people are watching, but that's the only way we can communicate, okay? Drop a comment. Let me know that where you're watching from, and then things like that. So what does a church consultant do? Before then, in my book, Church Retention, Pathway to Growth, I did a survey of almost 600 church pastors, and you could see that, one, they do not budget for church consultation. Two, they have not come to the realization of the need for church consultation in their churches. And so then also, most of them usually use business consultants to be able to get some advice than using church consultants. And of course, there were criteria at which will help them to decide on which church consultant they need to engage. I think in the next Monday morning, we're going to run this for like 5 Mondays. We're going to look at, because those empirical data needs to be shared. I mean, people were looking at experience, education, qualification, and things like that. Those are some of the key things in that survey that was very, very, very of concern to church leaders. They are going to use to decide who they engage as a church consultant. You know, one of the things that we need to also learn is what does a church consultant do? Church consulting is a top job. Okay, I've done that to several churches in Nigeria. I was able to do a shadowing with Jim Biber in the US, and so I know it's a process. It's a process that takes a lot of activities, a lot of tasks, and that process it takes place when the church leader engages with an outside individual or a firm. And that outside individual is like an outside eye or a professional eye who helps the church, guides the church towards healthy church growth, You are in a situation where you need to diagnose exactly where you are, and you also need to know where the church needs to be in the nearest future, and then you engage a church consultant to help you achieve that vision for that church or ministry. And also, this actualization is going to be possible if there is a needed momentum towards transformation. So why do you have to hire a church consultant? Churches hire church consultants for many reasons, and I'm going to just talk on some very few ones, maybe 5 today, and then we'll just wrap it up. Because the thing is, if you do not engage outside eyes, you may be shocked that you are just inwardly focused, and you cannot be able to get the feedback you need to be able to destroy the power of your blind spot as a church. So why do you have to? Because I know to get to be a church consultant is a lot of training. I can remember when I was getting myself certified in the US from the Society for Church Consulting. The training was rigorous. I mean, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then did some shadowing, did some other assignments. It was really, really rigorous. And so we need to look at the reasons why you have to consider hiring or engaging or seeking the services of a church consultant. And so church leaders desire to become better, okay, to move their ministry forward. And so, because you are leading and managing a church, it can be overwhelming because of the number of tasks. If I can tell you today that being a pastor is a tough job. Being a pastor is a very challenging job, okay? In fact, today's world is that people want the pastor to be a superman. You need financial advice, you need marital advice, you need educational advice, you need career advice, you need mental advice, you have mental health issues, you have spiritual health issues, you have emotional health issues. Every one of the congregation runs to the pastor. And so church leaders desire to move their church forward. They need to make sure they are gaining ground, and they are not overwhelmed by a lot of the things they need to do to lead and manage their church successfully. And so you need to also consider that by outsourcing this area, because I've seen where where church leaders are overwhelmed with the pressures of the church, and they never knew the vitals of what is going on in their church. I can remember when I consulted for a church, and they never knew that for the past 3-4 years they never had water baptism. They've been having converts. Okay, so the church consultant has been trained to ask the necessary questions that nobody wants to ask in your church, and they've also been trained to look out for things that you naturally will not want to look out for. And so there's a church health framework that we use. There's a church health framework that we use to make sure that we are asking the right questions, we are looking for the right answers, we are asking the whys, and we want to know the reason behind what is going on in your church. I'm not part of the politics in your church. I will just give you my objective view, my professional view, and things like that. And you need that input to be able to move your church forward and not be overwhelmed by the number of activities that is so enormous for a pastor to handle. Number 2, church leaders want to utilize technology and the internet to make their church more accessible, but aren't sure how to begin the strategic plan. So church consultants come. I remember one church that I went to represent my pastor, just to share some knowledge and do some capacity development, and we ended up doing a strategic planning. And the pastor was so grateful, because because I'm not part of the church, it's easier to do a kind of facilitation, strategic planning, and to stay true to the very core, which is the mission of the church, the vision of the church, while also making sure that we incorporate the needed strategy to move forward. So how do you leverage on technology? How do you leverage on the digital potentials of your church? And that's why you need to engage a church consultant to make sure that you are able to maximally utilize the needed technology and internet or digital potentials your church may be needing at today's time. You see, one of the things I would say is that this point is so important. At least COVID-19 has taught us a lot of lessons. COVID-19 has taught us a lot of lessons that we don't have to gather for us to have income. We don't have to gather for us to have impact. We don't have to gather in the building to have influence. So those three things have been, our COVID-19 has been able to open our eyes that we can actually make maximum impact leveraging on technology and the digital potentials of our church. Number 3, church leaders want to raise a team around them, but they don't know how. So you see, one of the things I would say is I'm yet to see a church who is maximizing their human resource. Human resource. I mean, the human resource your church has. How do you utilize and maximize it so that you are able to move your church forward? So we know what to ask, how to set up a team around because whether you accept it or not, as a set man, the leader, the lead pastor of that church, you have blind spots, you have weaknesses, and if you are not intentional and deliberate to staff your weakness, to staff your blind spot, you also be vulnerable and be secured in that staffing process. You might not be able to move that church forward. So church leaders want to raise a team around them, but don't know how to find qualified people, qualified volunteers, qualified staff, qualified workers to take on some of these positions. I know some churches who have reached out to me to see how we can draft a job description for them, restructure. The fact that you are the senior pastor of that church does not mean that you know what it takes to structure a church. You don't know what it takes to do organizational development. So church consultants can help with this process to make sure that people are placed at the right places. You see? One of the things is that we have different people in different flares. Okay, we have the extroverted, we have the introverted, we have the people-oriented people, and we have the task-oriented people. And one of the things I would say quickly is that we need to put the right peg, round peg in round holes, and square peg in square holes. Okay, most of the time I always want to tell pastors and church leaders that nobody is bad in the church. It's just make sure that they are well trained and they are well placed. They are well trained and they are well placed. If you carry a fish and you put the fish on the ground, it's going to do some nasty tantrums and things like that, trying to survive for life. But if you carry that same fish and you put that same fish inside water, you don't have to struggle. It's in its habitat. It's going to just begin to display skills and potentials as a fish. Okay, so we help also, church consultant help in the process of human resource, because the more you maximize your human resource in terms of volunteers, okay, volunteer ratio compared to your congregation, the more your church is going to move towards health, and the more your church is going to make maximum impact. You can imagine when you are going for evangelism, you have them in 200, 2,000, not in 20 or 12. You have them in mass. That's how you're going to make maximum impact from that process. Number 4, church leaders have a great desire to grow their church. I'm yet to see a pastor who doesn't want to grow their church, either qualitative or quantitatively. Okay, so and that's why sometimes if you are so sensitive, we talk more on church growth, because most pastors want their church to grow. But you see, they don't. In fact, PFM Gwarinpa branch, we're going to be talking on this issue tomorrow. Okay, and if you have time in Abuja, you can just hop into that that meeting in Gwarinpa. Reach out to me. I can be able to send that information to you. But the thing is that most church leaders desire that their church should grow. Most pastors want their church to grow. It's just that it's just the same thing with a father who wants their children to grow. I'm here to see a father who doesn't want their children to grow. So imagine you giving it back to a child, and the child is just as small as it is. It doesn't crawl, it doesn't do anything. but 20 years, 40 years is going to be a concern. So that desire to grow, it's a very legitimate desire. It's also very good for you as a church leader, to desire greatly to your church to grow in any dimension, whether financial, qualitatively, quantitatively, in terms of biological growth. There are different kinds of growth that we need to understand, and your church needs to understand what kind of growth exists in your church, so that you don't get yourself into competition, because we are not cut out for the ministry of competition. As one man of God said, we are cut out for the ministry of reconciliation. Okay, ministry of reconciliation. And so number four is church leaders that have great desire to grow their church, but they don't know how. They don't know what to focus on, what growth engines to sharpen, what energies to sharpen, what capacity development they need to put in place, what steps that are necessary to move their church towards health. Because my philosophy is that if your church is healthy, the more your church is healthy, the more your church is going to grow. And the more your church is healthy, the more God is going to use your church. And the more your church is healthy, the more your church is going to be used to make maximum impact in the community. Maximum impact in the community is what will transform your front door to make people to come to your church, because people want spiritual maturity, people want spiritual growth, people want spiritual impartations, and that's the way you can be able to make sure that from that desire for your church to grow is to engage a church consultant, so that you can focus your energy on what it matters. You see, there's a ripple point that your church can hit that will create the ripples on all other systems and church functions that your church has. Okay? That your church has. So please, let's engage the services of a church consultant, because we know what questions to ask, we know how to audit, we know how to probe, we know how to make fine findings. Because the thing is, can I say quickly before I go to my last point, as a church consultant, we don't go after symptoms. Okay? Sometimes what causes conflict is symptoms. Or what causes conflict in the church is disease, but what we see as a vocal expression of the disease is symptoms. And so when we get into your church, we don't get deceived by the symptoms. When we hear the symptoms, we keep asking the question, why, until we get the root cause of the disease. And you see, as a certified church consultant, once you are able to deal with the disease, the symptoms is going to go. Once you are able to address and treat the disease, the symptoms are going to vanish. The same thing, another analogy is the fire and the smoke. You don't go after the smoke and try to kill the smoke, or allow the smoke to vanish. Just deal with the fire. Once the fire is being quenched and put off, it's a matter of time the smoke is going to vanish. But if the fire is still burning, there's no how that the smoke will not be will not be so pronounced in the church. And so that's just it, just to make sure that you engage a church consultant so that you can focus your energy on what matters. Because one of the things I found out is that churches are actually minoring on the major and majoring on the minor. And so we will let you know that this is the ripple effect of what you can do that will bring about maximum impact. Church leaders need to find ways of getting to make small efforts or input that can produce massive impact as an outcome. Okay, and the last one has to do with church leaders often wish to for clear accountability for someone outside the church staff who can give perspective on how well they are doing at carrying out their vision and mission of the church. So the last one has to do with you having an outside eye to provide professional advice and wisdom to give you a perspective, because your perspective might be your undoing. Your perspective might be the reason why you are still held up in that barrier, or you are having that church growth ambition as a church. And so when you bring someone outside, you bring fresh eyes, you bring fresh perspective, you bring fresh wisdom, you bring fresh knowledge, and that will help you to ensure that you are actually focusing on the vision and the mission of your church as a whole. So one of the things I will say quickly in round up, the church consultant will always provide the insights to your problems. So as in Magnicraft, we have a lot of assessment tools, because one of the things is that it's very dangerous for you to address a problem you don't know is existing, or you get a problem when you are doing try by error. Okay, you can imagine somebody has a fever and then you are just taking all kinds of drugs that does not have to address the issue of fever. So we as church consultants, we provide insight to your problem, because once you know your problem, you have 50-60%, you already have 50%, 60% solutions of the problem. Once you don't know the problem, there's a high chance they're going to make the problem worse. So we help you with insight into the problem that are holding a church back from accomplishing its vision and its mission, its goals, objectives, and things like that. So let's stop here, and then we'll go on next week, Monday, with a continuation. Please feel free to share us on your social media handle, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube. Please subscribe to this video. Let me hear from you. Subscribe to this video and then turn on the notification bell so that you can be able to know when a video has been uploaded. Okay, so please feel free. That's my contact. We do a lot of trainings for church pastors, church staff, church leaders. Reach out to us. We can provide you the needed help that can move your church from where it is right now to where God wants it to be. So please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We will provide excellent church consulting for health, growth, vitality, and results. And we have quite a lot of feedback or reviews to that effect. So please feel free to also ask us questions. Yeah, I mean, I love to ask questions. I think my answering of questions does not require you to pay for you just ask a question, and then we'll go to give you the answer and see how we can help you move your church forward. Okay, thank you for being with me to this far. I'm so grateful for all the things you have done. You have any church related question I've said, please let me know. I'm sure we're going to respond to your prayer. If this video has been helpful to you, give us a like, do us a share to your community, share us to your church leader, your pastor, give us a comment. You have heard from me in the last 20 minutes. Please, I would love to hear from you. Drop a comment for me in the comment section what you feel about engaging a church consultant and how it has affected your church. We also do consultations, trainings, capacity development, strategic planning. Reach out to us and let's see how we can help your church move on forward. Till I come your way next week, Monday, again, with a continuation of how to engage a church consultant. Please, I say bye-bye. I love you and God bless you.